Yeah, I'd like to discuss a little insight of my own, and that's basically, they made a Steve Jobs movie, and I think they made two or three of them, but they made a Zuckerberg movie, Facebook movie, the Facebook, crap, and they didn't make a Bill Gates movie, and they didn't make a Elon Musk movie, or a Jeff Bezos movie, which I'm surprised that Jeff Bezos would be a good movie. I think, you know, he was like Apple. He started his business in a garage, kind of thing, or the basement of his house or whatever. And those are all feel good movies. Jobs was adopted, so that was a good movie. Become a billionaire from being adopted. Um, Zuckerberg, he dropped out of Harvard and created Facebook, and Facebook for a long time was not monetized. Until it went public, monetizing wasn't part of what they did. Facebook was free. The account was free. Anything you did on it was free. And now it's monetized. They have stockholders. They got uh, stockholders. And they have to answer to, and it's totally different. That's why Facebook really sucks now. But I'm not even on Facebook. I have an account, but I'm locked out because of password situations. But, it's just, they made feel good movies, and I think Musk and Gates would be not feel good movies. And you know, the truth can be compelling, and it can be repelling. And I think in the Gates and Elon Musk world, it would be repelling uh, to see. When Gates stole everything from Jobs. He stole Windows from Jobs. He stole everything that Windows is. Office, he stole from Jobs. Everything. And I don't think Gates would red light that movie. you know, I don't see him red lighting it anytime soon. Reasonably so. So that's why you haven't seen a Gates movie, and you probably never will. I hope you see his trial. I hope you see his perp walk, but you know that might never come either. You know, so and the same for Musk. But, you know, I don't know. You just gotta wonder, you know, why they do things, and more importantly, why they don't. You know, why did why did Trump kill the assassination investigation against him that happened in Pennsylvania? No investigation. Said there wouldn't be one. You know, but it wasn't real. Somebody really ended that day. Two people ended that day, and others got hurt. But it wasn't real. It was a stunt for him to stay out of jail because if he didn't get elected, he was going to jail. And guess what? He's not in jail. So you gotta wonder. Remember, not what they do, it's what they don't do. So, you know, and you know, I'm not afraid of aliens. I think aliens have a big part that they play in this world. And like I said in the last video, our vision, our hearing, our smell, our taste, everything is within a certain plane of ability, where the dogs are higher, other animal, bats, and an elephant can smell water 30 miles away. You can't even smell your toilet bowl. you know, thank God. You know, it's just we only have certain abilities, but yet we think that anything that doesn't fall within our realm, you know, within our existence abilities, doesn't exist. It's all hoopla. It's all make believe until we see the elephant show up at the water hole, you know, or the dog find the missing child, or the dog report the burglar in the backyard. You know. So, until those things happen, it don't exist, you know. And the bat finds the mosquito mid-flight in the middle of the dark, where you can't even see your hand in front of your face, but this bat can find a mosquito. But yet, our abilities are the only abilities. And it's just, you know, this is the manipulation, this is the crap they want to say. You know, it's not what they do, it's what they don't do. They don't tell you the truth. You know. So aliens, I think, operate out outside this area, you know, up here where I came, you know, in a world that we don't operate in. And I think they, because we've seen the UFOs on news, we've seen the pictures and all that, so they obviously can exist in our field of vision and our field of abilities. But I think they can go from one to the other whenever they want. Uh, so, and you would think that if they could go into the realms that we can't see, that they could venture into our realm. Uh, and you have to wonder why they would do that when they could be invisible, but they choose to be visible. And it was funny, the movie They Live with Roddy Piper. Uh, there was, in that movie, the aliens disappeared. Now they explained it as, they had this crazy explanation, like a hole in the floor or something that they went through, you know, like a tunnel system that they had built through that. You know, that, first off, it's like a 1980 movie, so, you know, special effects weren't there yet. But they had the aliens disappearing all of a sudden, you know. So I don't think they do it that way now, but and if they remade the movie, I know for sure they wouldn't have a hole in the ground, you know, kind of thing. But you know what I'm saying. And movies, they are lies, but they are truths. There's truth in a lot of those lies. Uh, you know, so, but it's hard, you know. You're lied to on a daily basis, you know, and every every other word coming out of a newscaster's mouth is a lie, you know. And if the police say he did it, there's a good chance he didn't. There's a good chance he wasn't even in the building, you know. So, but people will buy it. People listen to that newscaster like they're speaking out of the Bible, and the Bible itself is a bunch of crap, you know. So, you know, you got that. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Yeah. I hear Mel Gibson is starting his own channel to expose the Epstein files, and all the corrupt people that were tied to him. And you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they end him like they did Charlie Kirk. And and that's what they do to these people, because like Charlie Kirk, he was nobody before he was ended, and then he was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and how come we never heard of him before? You know, and all these other things, and they'll do that to Gibson, you know, when they end him. You know, they'll make it like, oh, he was a truth teller. He was trying to pursue truth, and yeah, he was, and that's why they ended him. You know, but they won't say that. They won't say that. You know, but like I said, it's not what they do. It's what they don't do. Right? And they installed Charlie Kirk's wife into the president of the company, and she's bought, she's paid for it because she saw what happened to her husband, so she knows if she doesn't do the right thing, it's going to happen to her too. And, you know, and they might not end her in the same way they did Charlie, but they'll make her broke. They'll put her kids on the street, and stuff like that, and in their own way, in their own way. And her circle of friends will get real small, and if she has any, and they'll turn off her mic, and whatever she says, nobody will hear. So they have their ways, you know. And the problem with Charlie was saying Epstein was tied to Israel, and he is, and he was, and he was saying it to college students, and Israel doesn't want college students to be turned against them, and that's what he was doing, and that's why he's ended, you know. And that's why I think you saw all the college revolts at universities and such in the last year or two with the Palestinians and stuff, is because they want the young people on their side, and they obviously don't have them, and they shouldn't. So, and it's a shame. It's a shame because it's all about control, and that's what the Jews want to do. They want to control the narrative, which is why they own all the newspapers, all the movies, all the TV channels, all the politicians, because they're controlling the narrative. They get out there what they want, what's good for their message, and don't let anything go out. Same as Hungary. Orban owned all the radio stations, TV stations, news press, everything. And if you spoke bad about Orban, it never got published. It never got put out there. Nobody heard it. Nobody heard you. And he was president for many, many years because he did this. And, but it comes back to haunt you. Just like not making a Bill Gates movie. Now someone's going to make one. And it's not going to be favorable to Bill Gates. So Orban got his. He's out. He's out, and the government's going to switch. And, look, the problem I have with doing like an Orban thing, even with a Trump thing, because when Trump leaves, the Democrats are going to feel emboldened to push their agenda and raise taxes and do what the Democrats do. And just like with Orban, I think it's wrong. I think the problem is the pendulum. It's the pendulum. It swings too far to the right, and then when it comes back, it swings too far to the left. I think the Democrats have to learn that a lot of people voted for Trump for their own reasons, and I think they need to at least acknowledge those reasons and appease them in a way that makes, I don't know that they'll vote Democrat, but they might not riot in the streets because of Democrats, And with Orban, the government that Orban created was very like a communist government, a very dictator type government. And it's funny, our government, Trump and Vance, were all pushing that government. They were a dictator, and they're trying to get them reelected, So you have that. But I think for the Hungarian government to go totally to the other end is just as much a mistake as staying where it is. I think, life is about balance, and when it's out of balance, it's doing everything, the universe, the unforeseen realm that you can't see, is doing everything in its power to create balance, and that's why Orban lost, because it was so out of balance. So the pressures to bring it back into balance have won, and Orban lost. But the problem is with the force and the force and determination that got Orban out it's hard to not have it swing, to not have it swing too far in the wrong direction, in the other direction. So you have that. You gotta watch it. Just because you won doesn't mean, like, the Republicans screwed the pooch in the crash of 2008, and they screwed the whole world with financially. They almost bankrupt how many governments, including our own, and how many companies that went down, like Lehman Brothers, um, and the car manufacturers almost lost everything. They did lose a few models. They did have to make corrections, but they almost lost everything because of what the Republicans did under Bush. And I thought it would be a very long time before another Republican would become president. And we had Obama for 8 years, but Obama ate the pain of what the Republicans did. The Republicans did what they did and walked away. They got voted out. And then Obama comes in and tries to fix everything the Republicans did. And of course, when you fix things and people don't like when you do things, like he bailed out the manufacturers, the car manufacturers, and everybody complained that he bailed them out, unless you work for them. But, and Bush didn't bail out the car manufacturers, which put them in a position that they needed to be bailed out. So Obama ate that hit, and more hits than that. I'm just trying to keep it short, but all the things that he had to do in order to save the country. He did Obamacare. That was a Republican plan. That was a Republican idea, and Obama took it and passed it, and then took the heat for it because it's not affordable health care. It's Obamacare. So he took the heat for it. He was the one that was why the country was going bankrupt because of Obamacare. Meanwhile, people were getting their basic needs, as far as health care was concerned, taken care of, and their parents weren't going bankrupt because of health care. And to the Republicans, that's a bad thing, which is ridiculous. But now the Republicans, they want to get rid of Obamacare, but they have no plan to replace it. But they won't tell you that. They have a plan. They just can't talk about it because there is no plan. So, and now I was surprised Trump won in 2016 because of what the Republicans did in 2008. We have a short attention span, and with Obama, the way he fixed the economy, everything was running fine. Everything was going good. The interest rates were low. Everything was going good. People got hurt in 2008 and were still suffering, and probably will be suffering for a very long time. But a lot of it, we survived because of Obama. And now Trump comes in and just destroys everything, like Bush did. But look, I said, MAGA people aren't smart. They're cheap, but they're not smart. And, like I said, the Tea Party, MAGA people, same people. It's just... And I think after Trump comes out, people are going to think that, well, it's going to be a long time before a Republican wins the presidency again. And that's not true. If you, as a Democrat, if you let that pendulum swing too much to the left, the Republicans are going to revolt, and they're going to vote in a Republican president who's going to be 100 times worse than Trump. Think of Vance. If he was president, he'd be 100,000 times worse than Trump. And Orban and Hungary, if they don't watch themselves, they'll have another Orban in his place very soon. Because there's a lot of people in Hungary that benefit from Orban, that benefit from his systems and what he did. And now they're going to get punished by the new people that are taking over. Just like Trump punished the Biden people, well, somebody's going to punish the Orban people. And let me tell you, it's going to come back to haunt them. Uh, those people are going to vote them out. It might take a while, it might take a few voting cycles, but it's going to happen. And it can be avoided. It can be avoided if you just don't let that pendulum swing too much. Sure, it's got to swing out of the Orban range and back to the middle, but don't go too far because you're just going to bring back revolt. And look, God is great, but the devil's great too. And if too much devil is no good and too much God is no good, you need a balance. You need good with evil, good and bad, war and peace. You can't have peace without war. So just balance is all I'm asking. Balance. Don't let that pendulum swing too much. It's gonna come back to haunt you.